Start the recording. Welcome everyone, this is STRAT Chat. If you haven't been here before, welcome. If you have been here before, welcome back. That's how English works, haha. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about Busan. We're doing STRAT Chat. It's been a while since I've done STRAT Chat, mainly because school's just been insane. But things were a little weird today, and I was able to actually have time. So today we're going to be going through a map guide on Busan, and we'll learn stuff like that throughout this map. That and momentum crap, because this map is a bit awkward, as you could probably tell. Yeah, I'm just going to turn off the music, because I don't know what ads are going up, and I don't have ad blocker. For non-obvious reasons. But yeah, let's go ahead and start out. We are on Sanctuary. This is one of the maps on Busan. Some fun facts about this is that each instrument's playable pretty much everywhere, which is nice. That and one other thing of the skybox is super small. That skybox, we just hit it. It's not as noticeable, so let me play far real quick so that you guys can see.
I will protect the innocent.
Boom. Boom. Yeah. So that's the skybox there. It's absolutely atrocious, and is the reason why I did not do a guide on this when it came out in the PTRs, because I thought they would patch it like everyone else did. Did not happen. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's toss ourselves into spectator mode so that we can see this while spectating. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead. Sky view. Oh, I forgot. Get stuck on the hitbox too. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see this. The main idea here is this map is structured like a spider web. So take this center point all around here, and then outside of there we have this band that runs around this area. And then we have directions that go to another band of another loop. So this is another loop that goes around. This is the next loop. So just think of this entire map as a spider web, and this will be a common thing. And then we go up another level, and then we are in another loop. See? Now this one kind of doubles back on itself, which is kind of interesting, but it exists. It's a loop, does the same thing. Each side of the map is exactly the same. And then here's like another minor loop that just goes around this outside, mirrors on the other, and then of course we have another that goes here. So pretty much just imagine like we have all these different routes, and so like let's say we're coming from spawn, we would go this way. So let's say we go left, then we have a direction we can either meet up with main, or we can go around a left flank. We have a small health pack, which is nice. We have another small health pack on the other side because things are mirrored on this. So that's all good. You have the cover of this building, which is nice, as well as this block. This block cover is actually really good, and helps out a lot of stuff. One thing to note is this ledge is hard to get back up on, so it is considered a high ground. Not really that good. You're not using it for actual high ground advantage, besides just making it so that the other team can't be near you, which is a strategy, but some people like better high ground control, stuff like that, so it's a bit different. So yeah, let's just go Hammond time. So yeah, let's just go, let's go right side. So I showed you that flank with Hammond back there. I'll show it again a bit later. But yeah, we have buildings, all that stuff. None of this is really that important besides health packs here. The most important health packs are probably here, that small health pack, and this large health pack. So you have 3 health packs next to each other, which is a trait that is commonly missed. This high ground is worth it in the middle of a fight. Not worth it otherwise, just because everything's so close quarters. That's the thing about this map, is it's so close quarters, and it causes some issues. Even the point is close quarters. This is the point. All around here, anywhere in these pillars that I'm... So, like, right here is outside the point. I'm outside the point, outside the point. I am in the point, in the point, in the point, in the point. So yeah, you can see it's a little bit insane how small it is. So small that Hammond can actually rotate around the outside of the point. That's how bad it is. Like, we're going full Johnny Carson quotes. Not really quotes, but jokes. But you know what it means. Let me actually cover some things as well before I go even further. I forgot to cover these. If any of you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. If you're on YouTube, you can put questions in the comments and I'll answer them. We'll be answering questions if I've had any through social media. Probably don't, so we'll just cover this. But if we do, we'll go across it. And then, of course, I post these up on YouTube afterwards, which is good to know, all that stuff. And then I also live stream these every Friday. Granted, things are a little bit awkward in scheduling, so it's going to be maybe once a month. I don't know. It'll depend on scheduling. Boom. There we go. Okay, so let's go over this high ground area. You see, can't get up there. You can try. Can't get up there. Originally I was thinking this map geometry could allow you to climb this corner, but you're gonna have to use mobility to get up here, which is difficult. Boom. Yep, you can just barely go on the edge. So yeah, that's the smallest restrictable high ground. The other smallest high ground is a high ground on, I believe, Nepal Sanctum. That one's pretty small as well. And that one's so small it's not even useful as a high ground. That's why this one could be useful under the idea of it's restricted so that not everyone can go in, which is nice, but things. Okay, so defendable wise and attacking wise, I imagine teams are going to want to defend probably up here. It would be a strategy so that they could cover this flank, they could cover the left flank, and this, of course, is kind of a bowl. You can defend here, it's okay to. I imagine that eventually teams will start defending other ways. This area, this in here is a little interesting. So this is where I'm not exactly sure of what can actually run on this because of a couple things. One, it is a high ground. Yeah, it's a high ground. Two, it's closed in. We don't have a lot of LOS, which is not that good. We have good LOS in this position, but back here in safety, we don't have a lot of LOS, which is a bit awkward. So I imagine there could be some ways in which a team will defend up here, but it's honestly not that defensible in any real cases. Some clues to that is that this is going to be a pain to actually hold because it's so small. Knocking someone off would literally mean that they can just capture the point. In here is basically so close quarters as well. If explosives went off, people would just get obliterated. That being said, a bunch of explosive damage would be good in this map, just to get stuff done. I can see that a team might like hold here and rotate on this end. So I imagine that area is going to be the most used. Over here, really not. I think the only way this would be a thing is if people went over and started capping the point here as it was being defended up there, which is a thing. It can be a thing. But yeah, I see as a possible defensive strategy is holding right here, and then just watching. You'll see the team movement, and you'll be able to rotate. So like if they went left, you could rotate to here and maybe race them to this area and then fight here. Because this right here, this little low ground area is actually cover, because you can peek down and you're not seeable. Basically the whole thing, I need to be muted in game. Whole thing with high ground really, this is covered in pressure, is so like I'm right here, I can control line of sight of this doorway by ducking down real quick. It's pretty fast on how easy I can to control this line of sight. But let's say, not counting the wall, to remove this doorway, high ground wise, I have to back up all the way over here to remove that line of sight. So you can see how much longer it is to remove that line of sight via high ground. That is one reason why this low ground's better in this situation. But if they are closer here, then it becomes the opposite. See? You can duck behind this area, as well as duck back here, and just use this as cover. That's good, but coming through the doorway, it's a bit more awkward, and I think that's going to happen a lot. Quite often. A lot of flanking options on this map. I do know that. Pretty decent flanking options, too. Trying to think. Jumping's going to be a bit awkward. The thing is looking at the map, dive's not going to work. It's not a dive map. It's not going to be a dive map. Mainly just because there's no real high ground to control. And so that's a big awkward thing. And it's really easy to get to those high grounds. So I imagine we're going to see a lot of goats and 2-2-2 on this map. Probably mostly goats at the moment, at the time of recording this, but that might eventually go away. So, yeah, things will work. Let's see if I can do any fancy. Nope, couldn't do it there. Wonder if they've ever patched that. I want to see if that's not liked. I'll try that. Trying to figure out a best way. I wonder if they patched that whole thing. Oh no. Oh no, sir. No, sir. I don't think it works anymore. It's quite a shame. Wow. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff with this map. Point's very workable in a very, you have to have presence on the point. So a Mei would actually be really decent on this map, especially since you can wall off that area, you can wall off that area, you can wall off this area. You can basically wall off many choke points, and that's really good. And then as well as you can wall off half of this point and basically establish point and not be able to be pushed off. Same thing with Reaper, is he doesn't get pushed off as easily either. That's really good. Junk on my shirt. But yeah, so I think off the top of my head, I would want to run main Reaper on this point just to hold it for longer. But I'll be honest, that's me overestimating it. Very similar to how I said people would kill Mercy a lot easier way back when she got her res bound to E. I said there's no way that she could be running a dive because she would just fly in and it would go to crap. That did not happen. So I honestly think that holding that point is going to be difficult, but it's not going to be difficult enough in which you're going to have to play Mei or Reaper. That being said, it might come to that time where that's going to have to happen. But for now, I don't think it's going to be like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of wicked map geometries. And that's a big thing to point out as well. Is you can see Doomfist. I punch here, boom, someone hits a wall. I punch here, someone hits wall. The only time someone won't hit a wall is if I punch them in this area. Very small windows to not have problems with Doomfist. So that's good for Doomfist players. Let's switch over. So yeah, comps to run. I would see that we would have 222 as the main comp. And reasons is because, let's say you're trying to get back into battle. You can go all the way to point through this. You can block off this area right here. You can get your team through this area. You can rotate to the right and get your team through here. It is pretty nice. Junkrat might be a good pick because of explosives. Like this area, if it's highly contested, explosives would be a thing. So honestly, I think it would depend on map stuff. So a team that wants to take that high ground and establish like a bunker comp with, like, let's say Orisa, you just switch to Junkrat and you just bomb into them. And I'll go ahead and show that. It's not really a long range map. That's a thing to take into account when building a comp, is that there's not really a lot of range unless they're standing about here and you're shooting this area. But there's so much cover, it's just not even worth it. That's the thing as well, is there's so much cover that even high ground's not even that useful. That's where I'm saying, like, high ground's just not useful, really. Because it really isn't. So that's the thing. But yeah, explosives. Boom. Just bouncing here. Pretty simple. A lot of spam. A lot of damage. Someone get Flex Seal on this. Yeah, so that's the thing. Junkrat, I think, is going to benefit a lot from this map. Especially since there's so many walls that his ult can climb on. So I think Junkrat's almost, I would almost say a 2-2-2 comp or a Goats comp would be really big. I would think, since there's a lot of corners and stuff like that, in some cases you may not need a Reinhardt. You can just run a non-main tank. Just run like Zarya and Roadhog. That's a possibility. Will never happen, but it's a possibility that you can run and be successful with. What else? I think besides that, the best things to kind of remember, let's actually go hero based, of if a hero's good at it. Diva, I don't think she can hit the skybox, but I think she gets close. You can run her to just get back up on that ledge high ground, which is a nice thing to be able to do, as well as get on top of the center drum in the center of the point. That provides actually a bit of cover because of the roof is just about the right height. Orisa, if you put her into that little high ground gazebo, you can make a bunker comp. Granted, if they play Junkrat or anything like that with a Pharah or something like that, basically bomb damage, even a Symmetra would be pretty big. Symmetra would actually be pretty good on this map just because there's so many walls that she can put her turrets on. Roadhog would be decent. I don't think he would be a staple. You can still run him, not really have much of a problem, but I don't know why you would run him. Winston, you can force a dive comp on this, but it's just not that good because you actually can't take up any position really, which is difficult. Hammond won't have a problem except for if you swing up too high, but you just have to make sure you're not swinging up too high. You can knock people off with your grapple, provide a lot of area denial. You can cover the point with your mines, which is pretty nice. Zarya has her grab. I think Zarya would be really good, so like a Ryan Zarya on this map is good. You could even, I would say Ryan, Zarya, and Hammond. Run that. More tanks would usually be better. Bastion, there's so many corners that his line of sight would be trash. I'd say Bastion's pretty bad. Doomfist, so many corners that he can actually get stuff done. Genji, I think there's not really much for him on the high ground, but him to actually jump over walls would be pretty good. Hanzo, under the same thing. Ooh, that's a jet. I don't know if you guys are hearing the jet. There we go. And just climb over. Granted, this map geometry on these walls are a bit trash. So yeah, you can jump over these walls pretty easily, which is really nice. So that's good. That's good. And then Hanzo, of course, likewise as well. We have Junkrat. Junkrat with his mines, really good. I think he gets a big bonus on this map. McCree, if they're running a Pharah, you can run a Pharah, but it's just the skybox is so high. You're going to spend most of your time hitting your head. Once you get used to it, I think you can actually do well. Mei, I think, is going to be good on this because her ult covers the point, as well as she can stay on the point for longer because of her freeze, and then she can freeze people who are trying to stay on point. I think she's pretty good overall because I don't think mobility is going to be much of a big deal on this map overall. Mobility will still be good, but a big deal? Probably not. Pharah, I think I already covered her. Reaper would be, I think, pretty good on this just because close quarters in a lot of cases, many corners for him to hide. He doesn't need to have long range. Soldier runs into the same thing as McCree. Yeah, you can run him if they have a Pharah. The range isn't really that much needed. It's there. Sombra, I think Sombra's pretty good just because she runs into close quarters stuff. She can hack, do all this stuff, whatever. And then there's 3 health packs on the high ground side. Symmetra, AoE damage, really good. Torbjorn, I think with Torbjorn's new ult that's coming out, I think he would be really good just because you're able to cut off areas, and his turret will be able to deny area, but the problem is that won't have a lot of line of sight. That's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is you won't have a lot of line of sight, and the turret won't get destroyed that often. The bad thing is the turret can't hit a lot of things. So that's a thing that can happen. Tracer, I think, would be really good just because she can duck in between. There's a bunch of chains of health packs that are nice. Widowmaker, I think she would be good to jump shot and do stuff like that. Otherwise, there's so many walls that you can barely get a long line of sight. Ana is useful, but if you're trying to do long range stuff like how Widowmaker does, things get a little awkward. But I think she's pretty good overall. You can stay on the high ground, you don't need to be on the point, and you can do mass healing. That's a big thing. She doesn't need to be on the point at all. Brig in a GOATS comp, yeah. Lucio in a GOATS comp, yeah, and the point's so small. Aura is really good. Mercy is Mercy. Do whatever, I don't care. Try to combo with someone, stuff like that. Otherwise, Moira, she has to be on the point to ult, to heal, or you can use her orb. There's a lot of walls to bounce off of. That's a bit of unpredictability, but it's okay. Zen can do a decent job because his healing can go around walls for a brief time, which is nice. You don't have to always keep line of sight. Granted, you don't have much range, but it's okay. So yeah, that's all the stuff with this map. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them. I'll answer them. We'll restart and see if we can get into a different map. Another one. Okay, so this one's a bit different. This is the mecha base. Welcome to the mecha base. I'll show you a cool thing you can do. Boom! We're on the high ground there. It's pretty nice. Well, that was weird. Okay. So with how high the ceilings are, you're able to attach to the ceilings. Again, low skybox, but you can see it, which is nice. So everything's good there. I like dive on this version. You don't have to run it, but you can. You can run other stuff, but the main reason why I like it is because you're able to be on high ground, take the high ground, do all that stuff, and then you can jump to the next high ground, do all that stuff. So if they try to run you down, you just rotate around. and you just basically kite them a lot of the times. These walls move up and down. Fun fact is that Hammond's grapple can attach to them. Again, we have a point the size of Rhode Island. So small. Not as small as the other one. But yeah. So like you see we're attached to that wall. Give it a moment. But yeah, so the point is that it's a point. Ha. Yep, we're still attached. Things are a bit shorter, but we're still attached. Again, this map is very much like a spider web. Take the point as the center, the walls as the extra ring, and then the paths, and then you have this high ground area, which is a ring in itself, a double ring, because you have this back area as well. And then we go into the next parts. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different entrances to this place. So we'll go through each one. This is the far right entrance if you're spawning from this way. And then you also have another band down here that takes you all the way over to the second to far left side. I believe, can you? Oh yeah, okay. So this isn't necessarily an entrance, it's an alternate route. I think this would only be used to get you back up. Not actually to engage. So like all that stuff's pretty bland. This place is a little interesting. You can get up there as Hammond, but it's not really that needed. It's okay. Again, you can do it from each side. I messed that one up. You can get it. Let me see it. Yeah, I just had to position better. I did that on the fly. On the fly gets a little awkward. High ground's really good for Hammond here. All these little ledges that you can jump off of and do good stuff. Like this. Boom. Right there. You can jump off here and do that. All that stuff. So yeah, there's that left area. Right area, high ground that you can get to if you are mobile. Hammond basketball come in. It's going to happen. And then we have this high ground here, which is really nice. You get a good line of sight. The problem is that these walls and the peek out so much, it's actually hard to get good line of sight underneath. So if you're having a problem with that high ground, you actually just go and stand right here because you're still on the point. You're still contesting it, and they have a problem hitting you. Yeah. Next thing is down below. Down below takes you across the bridge, and you end up by the spawn. As you can see, this pillar is really integral because you actually can't just run straight past it, which is kind of a bummer, but there's an opening through there if you're playing like Genji and you want to launch yourself in there, or if you're a very interesting Hammond player. I want to see if I can actually do this. Yeah, so you can wrap around there if you grapple there. You can do, I know Widowmaker can do this. A lot of people can do this, but it's a cool little trick. You just kind of jump down, and the Hammond's the only one that can do it both ways. I did it. Ah, man, if we had viewers, I'd ask someone to clip that. Rest in peace. We have here a little dump down if you're trying to run away, and a fun fact is there is a large health back here. Good place to just kind of hide out if you're trying to not die. Granted, in that case, you won't be contesting a point, and you probably just should die. But if you're a support and they're running straight after you, good kind of escape route. Other than that, eh. I'm not covering fun stuff in the spawn area because that's not going to help in actual competitive areas. All these pillars are nice because you can grapple to them as Hammond. Again, high ground's pretty good because... Let me actually take it to the low ground. So to get to the high ground, you can't go underneath. You have to go up this staircase. This is the only staircase. And then wrap around. So there's only one entrance to go up to the high ground. So keep that in mind. High ground is good. Now let's go to characters. Diva's good because she can get to the high ground easier, and she is Diva. Bomb's pretty trash. I think the same thing in Sanctuary, just because they just go behind a pillar. You're not going to be able to find much kills unless you go through a lot, and the other team's bad. Orisa, you can set her up on the high ground, which is nice. You can do that. I think it would be pretty viable. The problem would be is them running into you. If you're running a 2 lanterns comp, that would actually work pretty nice. But if you're just running a bunker comp, it wouldn't really work very well, especially since you would want to contest the point most of the time. Reinhardt could work in a goats, which is nice. It's not the best. You can. Well, yeah, goats will work. Goats will work on this. Roadhog, I don't think there's going to be much you can do with him unless you want to pull people off the point. That's an opportunity, but I don't know why you'd want to do that. Winston getting on the high ground's pretty nice. Hammond, I think for now people will play dive with a Winston Diva. Eventually it'll become a Hammond Diva, just because Hammond would be much better in that area, especially since there's so many walls you can hide behind. You don't need the shield. Zarya and a goats. You could do a 2-2-2 with a Rein Zarya. Options. Bastion, I think, would be pretty bad, just because getting to him, except if you were on the high ground, granted, line of sight can get broken. It's a little awkward. I'd highly suggest not running Bastion. Doomfist, pretty okay, because he can get on the high ground. Not really a lot to bounce off of, though, but a lot of corners and stuff like that will help out. Genji can wall climb. That's a couple areas that will help him with that. Hanzo, same thing. Junkrat won't get much, just because the sight lines are big enough that he can't really find much. Unless you're finding a lot of your fights in close quarters, then you would bring him out. McCree, if they're running a Pharah, or you just want to take up high ground and shell damage, same thing with Soldier. Mei for contesting point. Point is small, you can freeze. You can contest a lot easier. Far would be pretty decent, just because you can use the actual cliff as cover, which is nice, as well as ducking in and out. I think Far is a pretty decent choice, especially since you don't have to go the general regular routes. That being said, if you're having problems heading out a certain route, it is because of what you're choosing and how you're going about it. So it can very well be... I believe Commander just followed. Thanks, Commander. I haven't been getting notifications, which is a bit awkward, but hopefully. Reaper, he can pretty much do nothing. Don't play Reaper, unless you have him on the point, but he can't really contest high ground that well. It's just not a good idea. Soldier, high ground stuff. Tac Visor would be pretty good. They could just run around and hide behind something, but with the inconsistencies of those walls coming up, it would be a pretty good shot. Sombra for Sombra things. She's pretty good in this map overall, regardless of meta. Symmetra, you can put your turrets pretty much in a ton of places and find out which direction they're going to come in from on defending, which would be pretty nice. It's a good scouting maneuver. You can do Sonar Arrow to scout as well. Torbjorn Turret to scout as well as some of the new stuff he can do. You can actually, basically with his new ult, you can cover every single entrance, which will cut off a ton of stuff. Tracer's pretty good because things are relatively close quarters. Health packs around, all that stuff. Yeah, she's not a bad pick. Widowmaker line of sight's a little bit sketchy, but there's a way to play her. I'll go through with her. Ana, you can take up high ground and do whatever. Brigitte is pretty nice in a goats. Lucio, pretty nice in a goats. And a dive, that works pretty well too. Mercy, nice in a dive and go into places that the other team isn't. And Resing would be pretty nice. Besides that, her healing output isn't warranted enough. Moira and a goats, as well as being able to bounce around walls and scout out with her damage orb. And then Zenyatta because of walls. Same thing with Sanctuary. And line of sight is pretty nice there. So let's go ahead and pick Widow.
One shot, one kill.
That was almost bad. I So yeah, let's cover this. Um, okay, so boom. This is a good area for a Widowmaker because you have line of sight right there. You have line of sight right on this part of the bridge. You have that bridge line of sight under here, line of sight. There's line of sight, and that entrance is line of sight as well as that guy is line of sight. And with all these pillars, you can just adjust, and it'll block line of sight in multiple different areas, which is good and a bad thing. It will allow you to basically not 1v1 a Widow, which is in case you can't win the 1v1. This is a decent place. I imagine this is where a lot of teams are going to be positioned because this little slope is good as a secondary high ground. So like, you know how I said there's some high grounds, like the one on Sanctum, that are not enough tall and still have access to them, that they're not really that much worth it. They try to put a wall on it to make it better, but honestly it just makes it harder to hit shots. Granted, you're on a turret level, which is pretty nice, but you'd have to be... It's still close enough that it isn't really that good. This is a good angle overall. I like this angle. And then if push comes to shove, you have, boom, health pack. So there we go. That's this map. Let me see if I'm missing anything. Sanctuary, low roof, web structure. Point small as Rhode Island, Mecha base. Web structure again, many paths, high ground, line of sight, all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, just keep in mind, because I know a lot of people are going to have problems with teams and not being able to go through those hallways as easily, which is a difficulty. And defending at those hallways is a pretty good idea if you're running like a goats comp or whatever. Overall, it would be a pretty good idea. But the problem is that if the team knows and your team knows, you'll just rotate around. And the problem would just solve itself. Rest in peace. Yay. How long were you recording? 40 minutes. Not bad. There we go. So, welcome to downtown. This is what it's called, downtown. We have a couple of different high ground areas. Let me not have Widow and actually grab a more mobile hero. Okay, we come out. There's 3 entrances and therefore exits. This left side basically wraps you around onto a high ground that you can jump down from and then get you to here. This is pretty nice. Let me actually take you main first. Let me not jump the gun. So you can go to main 2 different ways. A lot of people will just go this way. A lot of people are just going to go this way in relative. This is where the other direction comes down from. You go and you meet the team here. You do your little struggle and stuff like that. Basically, the idea around this is you want to make sure that you clear that high ground before you start anything. So eventually you'll take the fight up here. You'll push people off the high ground. Once people are off the high ground, you'll take the high ground with whatever you can. Shell down. If you can't shell down, then you just make sure you deny the high ground from them. And then from there, you just jump down, boom, slam, jam, all that stuff. Pretty nice. This high ground overall isn't really worth too much. Granted, it is up here on the high ground, like so, but it's pretty easy to get through main, which is a big issue. So like, let's say if you're defending on the high ground, they just come in from main, they run up on goats. Let's say they're playing a very aggressive rush down comp and they just run through you. So high ground's not going to give you much benefit. Other high grounds that will give you benefit is here. This is a good high ground. Another good high ground is, of course, here. So this is a good high ground as well. because you have line of sight of pretty much everywhere around here. You'll see teams using this as high ground. It's relatively common. And then, of course, the high ground on the other side is good for a Widowmaker because you can take shots. And the thing to also note is that you can peek this edge to go after another Widow. So if you're playing Widow, I suggest standing behind this block because if another Widow comes out, you are screwed. Pillar's nice for Hammond. Point is probably the biggest one out of these map pools, but still pretty small, which is kind of sad. Of course, we have the train. The train's a train. Try to not fall into it. If you get killed by the train, whatever. People might get booped off. It will eventually happen. It's not going to be that often, but it'll happen. It won't be as often as Lighthouse, but it'll be pretty close. Even though Lighthouse is pretty often too. Okay, so let's say we're in first fight. This is where things get a little interesting. So this one's not really much of a web structure. We do have one band in here, but that's pretty much it. It's not a lot of other bands. So like, let's say it's your first fight. Run in. Let's say we're running goats. We run in. Or 033, and how I call it. That's our original coin, and we are one of the first teams to run it. So I'm gonna just call it 033. There we go. So yeah, come into here. We have our little tussle. We go around here. We take the high ground. All that stuff. We knock them off. Let's say we win the fight. Boom. We cap the point. Yay! Where do we go from here? We go up here. We use this cover and figure that out. Now, let's watch and let's say, for example, we were attacking against that defense. They're on that high ground. Come around this corner. Oh no, we're getting attacked. We can't survive through this. Let's duck around the right side. We go up here and we touch the point and then start capping it. Well, there's some pluses and minuses to it. You basically either you brave trying to get through here where they all dive on you, or you just straight up dive onto them, which is an option. Clear them off the high ground, but the problem is that they can set up a backline on that high ground. Symmetric teleport would be pretty nice to put people up there on the back that can't really get up there, like Anna and stuff like that. So cutting around this right side is viable, because then you can just head here. And then let's say they go onto the high ground as well. So then you start rotating up with a shield, and then you push into them, knock them onto the low ground, and then you rotate there. That is a way to go about it, especially if they're running a dive up here on this high ground. You can do that, wrap around there. If they are not running dive and they're running like goats or 2-2-2, then just run straight through them because there's not a lot they can do. If you are running into a Widow issue in the back line, I would suggest playing someone to harass the Widow, get her checked, as well as just like taking up high ground, stuff like that. Knock her off the high ground. These high grounds aren't really that difficult to knock people off of. Let me see if I can grapple this. Yeah, you can do that. It's a bit awkward. That map geometry is a bit odd to actually grapple onto. So a lot of this map is going to be rotations around this high ground, mainly just because it's not necessary, but at the same time, so you can't defend on the high ground, but if the fight is ensuing and there's people on the low ground, then things get awkward. Because if you want to kill that person on the high ground, then you have to travel up to the high ground. Whereas traveling to the high ground is easy when you're setting up your engagement. So there's that. Of course, there's this underneath thing, not really too big of a deal. There's that high ground area that I showed you. There's that little left flank. Not really needed because basically you get to here and then you have that. It's very much like Lighthouse. Not really needed to go that direction. You can. Just to kind of kite around a bunch of danger. This is pretty decent high ground because you can peek corners, and then if need be, you can duck back here, get healing. You can't retreat back there unless you use mobility, but it's not really that big of a deal. Oh, and another rule of thumb is you can get on top of anything above these buildings that is gray, not green. So boom, can get on top of it. Boom, can get on top of it. Rip. But you can see there's green roof buildings. All of those green roof, you can't get on. So, rule of thumb with this is that green is non-standable. Oh, that's my chair being creaky. Yep, it's annoying. Signs are pretty nice to grapple on. Boom. Yeah, as a team, you want to run like goats through here, push through onto them, all that stuff. Run a ham and do that. Clear off the high ground, and then go in because you don't want them on the high ground shelling damage on you while you're trying to cap the point. It is a bit awkward, and they will just do whatever the heck they want. It is possible with a very high sustained comp that you can sustain on the point for long enough where they have to jump down. But when they jump down, things can get a little bit hairy, especially if they're running like a 2-2-2 comp. 2-2-2 would be pretty nice. Goats, pretty nice. Dive would be pretty nice. I don't think you can go wrong with really a comp. So, yeah. That's all the stuff that I have, honestly. Not doing a thing on Torbjorn yet, just because he's pretty self-explanatory at the moment, and I'm wanting to wait for a bunch of stuff to go on live in order for us to actually cover that. So I'm gonna bounce around and do whatever. Actually, let's back out. Anything cool in arcade? Mystery goes. So let's. Any questions, and I'll answer them. That one guy, I should have. You should have what? I don't know. Context, everyone. Remember it. Queue times. Am I right? Queue times are a pain. Might have been a little late to replying to that comment. Sorry. There's always that one guy. Is that where it comes from? See if I can find any questions. No, none there. Nope. I have no questions on any social media. So we'll probably end it here then. So yeah, if you're watching this on Twitch and you want to keep up to date, you can follow me, do all that stuff. If you want to basically do anything else, there's a YouTube if you want to keep up to date on everything. I post everything to YouTube. Let me get back on my headphones. Yeah, so I post everything onto YouTube. I do have my last STRAT chat not posted, so I'm gonna have to post that one before I do any other. I can't remember why I didn't post the last one. I think I had other things going on and I couldn't actually upload it, so I'll make sure that that's uploaded. So this should be number 26. I do different things on YouTube. I do like different Minecraft videos and stuff like that for fun. Other coaching stuff, and then just memes, stuff like that. I've posted a couple of memes lately. Twitch, I tend to do these live streams. I do live streams I don't post on YouTube and all that stuff. Granted, across the board, I do post the same stuff on Twitter. That pretty much encompasses everything. So that's pretty nice. Got a Nana. Na 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 na. See? It's a beautiful life in bronze. It's gold, I'm sorry, it's not bronze, I lied. Boom. Here comes a boom. Ready or not. Here comes a boys from the south. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording. Thanks everyone for watching. Bye.